What images are conjured up in your mind when you hear the words Holy Family? An obvious answer to that is, of course, we think of the members, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. But more to the point, how do we imagine them? My guess is that for most of us, especially at this time of year, a manger scene comes to mind, or an image of Mary and Joseph holding the baby Jesus close together under the light of a bright star. Indeed, these are worthy images because they capture the beauty and serenity that made that first Christmas a holy night. And perhaps even more so, these types of peace-filled images of the Holy Family capture a deeper reality. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph were in right relationship with God, and each in their own way was fulfilling God's promise to humanity that God would always be with us. The serenity, beauty, and peace of what comes to mind when we think of the Holy Family of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph certainly comes from being in that right relationship with God. It most certainly did not come from what was swirling around them at the time of the birth of Jesus. In fact, all that was swirling around them from the moment of the Annunciation to the foot of the cross at Calvary. Yet, in and through it all, the peace and serenity we associate with images of them at this time of year remained day in and day out. Holiness, you see, is not equated with a life on easy street, nor is it equated with a life of privilege or getting a pass on suffering. Actually, holiness as we know it in Scripture and in the lives of the saints, and even some saintly people we may know in our own lives, is almost always quite the opposite. Therefore, it is important on this day to look at some of what Jesus, Mary, and Joseph endured, all the while remaining faithful to God and one another, and all of which contributes to and constitutes in large part their holiness. Over the past several days, we have heard the Annunciation to Mary and the Annunciation to Joseph. They're miraculous, yes, each in their own right. But can you imagine what it must have been like for a young, uneducated girl of no more than 14 or 15 years old in a patriarchal society to be pregnant by means that she could never adequately explain? Not to mention the predicament of being in Joseph's shoes. Can you imagine the whispers, the stares, the judgments leveled against them? And then, when the Christ child was born, the cloud of danger that followed the star, named King Herod, that sent emissaries ahead to find the child in order to destroy him. These emissaries, the Magi, also received a miraculous intervention in a dream not to return to Herod with the information as to where the child was. They obeyed, and they returned home by another route. In our readings today, the story of the troubling circumstances surrounding the birth of Jesus continues. The Gospel of Matthew tells us of the flight into Egypt of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph at the direction of the angel of the Lord to Joseph in a dream. Several more dreams direct the Holy Family away from danger and finally to Nazareth, all to fulfill what had been said by the prophets: "He shall be called a Nazarene." What a beginning for Jesus. What a journey, literally and figuratively, for Mary and Joseph. No, holiness is not equated with that which is easy, free from challenge and conflict, danger and difficulty. No, instead, holiness has everything to do with confronting all of the above and staying faithful to God in and through it all, striving for the grace of inner peace and serenity, because even in the face of life's challenges, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph remained always in right relationship with God. Perhaps then, the most important takeaway from entering into the journey of the Holy Family today is that true holiness cannot be attained without enduring trials, challenges, and yes, even suffering. Can you relate? I have no doubt you can. And so how is the example of the Holy Family meant to impact me and you today? We are all members of a family, our family of origin, the family or the community that we married into, the human family. And as we focus on the Holy Family, it is all but inevitable that we think about all of the families of which we are a part. In fact, I think a necessary part of celebrating the Holy Family is accepting their invitation to reflect on our own parents, our children, spouses, siblings, extended and chosen families. You see, the holiness of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph is a call to holiness to us all, as individual members of all the families to which we belong. Just last night, I had the privilege of being at the home of some of my oldest friends. They were my friends from childhood. They were there, their children were there, and their children's children were there. Some came from California, some came from Florida, and we all gathered in New Jersey. And when I was leaving, I said, I have to go back home because I need to be in good shape, because tomorrow I'm going to celebrate the Feast of the Holy Family at the Abbey. And one of the young children looked at all of us and he said, Father John, this is a holy family. I said, indeed it is. We are all members of different families. Where are the blessings of peace and serenity within our family circle? Where are those difficult memories, challenging, possibly painful situations with children, spouses, siblings? Where are the broken relationships? Is there a need for a softening of hearts or forgiveness? Where are we called to do better as members of our immediate family and extended out to being members of the human family? The story in today's gospel of the Holy Family's flight into Egypt is often cited in conversations over what has become a deeply challenging and often divisive issue in our country and in the world in which we live, the issue of immigration and refugees. Like some of those difficult challenges we must face in our immediate families, this is one we need to face as members of the human family. And given all of the complexities that these issues represent, the example of the Holy Family is one that challenges us all to respond in such a way to remain in right relationship with God. Behind these issues are real people, just like me and you. Specific to the feast we celebrate today, where is it necessary that the example of grace under pressure of the Holy Family enter into all the families to which we belong to achieve healing that leads to holiness, and the holiness to which we are all called? It is a lot to ponder, and the Holy Family gives us a lot to hold in our hearts today. Let us raise up the example of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph as we consider our own family situations. May their peace, serenity, and joy be ours as we strive to model their example, to live within all of the families to which we belong, making our decisions to remain in right relationship with God.